think we all need to remember that, safety is not just about reacting to threats. It's about actually empowering yourself and others to take control.
He had quite a dodgy night in a hotel in Mexico. And I think he ended up barricading his door in this hotel with every piece of furniture that he could find in the hotel room. Then out of necessity, the concept of door jammer came out of his head.
Hello and welcome to this Inveroy Security Podcast. I'm joined today by Rob Platt, the Sales and Marketing Director for Penn Elcom. Good afternoon, Rob.
Good afternoon.
Funny enough, we were introduced to Penn Elcom through an online training course that we're in the middle of creating just now. And the training course is really around travel security, not just at home, but mostly overseas. And we were introduced to Penn Elcom by a mutual friend. Now, for those of you who don't know, Penn Elcom make an excellent bit of kit, a door and window jammer that we're actually starting to recommend to potential clients. And that's why we're here today. So today's chat is really about what you can do to improve the security of where you reside, either at home or abroad, on your holidays, or whilst working overseas, because the problem of breaking and entering seems to be relatively similar wherever it happens. In short, we're just making it too easy for the bad guys. But before we talk about the physical security aspects, I'm just going to ask Rob, hey Rob, how did the window and door jammer come about?
So effectively, Penn Elcom is a manufacturing company based in the UK. So we have product design in the UK and we have factories in China and the UK. It came about because we were known to someone called Esteban von Saint, who actually came up with the concepts when he was traveling in Mexico. And effectively what happened was he had quite a dodgy night in a hotel in Mexico. And I think he ended up barricading his door in this hotel with every piece of furniture that he could find in the hotel room. And then out of necessity, the concept of door jammer came out of his head. And from there, he kind of contacted us and asked us to work with him as a manufacturing group. And we worked together. And then we came up with the physical product, which is door jammer, as it is now.
And that's good. I mean, I don't know about you, but you do find today that the physical security aspect of people's safety and security is overlooked, because I think cyber's just stolen the show. I think that everyone thinks that it's all about cyber security now, and rightly so to some degree, because it does protect infrastructure that powers our digital systems. But I think people forget that if server data centers, devices that store sensitive information are vulnerable left to theft, then it just amplifies the problem. So I think it's really important that, yes, we shouldn't discard cybersecurity, but we should really think about the security of people and the facilities and the homes that they work at. I think there's got to be a balance, Rob. What do you reckon?
I agree with that completely, because I think because we're in this space and we're selling the product, what you notice is there isn't a huge choice in physical security products. So obviously, general locks on homes and doors and things, that's a different thing. But in terms of door jammer and what I would say is our competitors, it's actually a really small market comparative to cybersecurity cameras that you can now get for motion and ring doorbells and things like that. So it kind of is overlooked. There's not a huge amount in that space.
Yeah, I agree. Have you ever been burgled, Rob? Have you?
I haven't. I know many people who have, but personally, thankfully, gripping onto this desk that you can't see, I haven't.
We haven't been burgled, but we just for note, we've had 8 burglaries in 2 weeks, and that's by people coming into the countryside and just making opportunities for themselves. I mean, some of the issues that we've been told about, and really a reflection across the UK, is especially unsecured doors and windows, especially those left unlocked or with weak locks. These seem to be the most easy access points for burglars. Definitely around where I live. I mean, a lot of farm buildings, a lack of alarm systems, surveillance cameras, and you alluded to those cameras you can buy now to put around your house and outside. I mean, that's making it difficult for the burglar to steal your, not just information, but your property. Another one is poor lighting. I've worked with clients who have poor lights outside their facilities. Not only is it easy for the burglars to make access, but actually it's also not looking after your people, leaving poorly lit premises at night time, especially in the winter months. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's a concern. And the other one is unmaintained locks, older poorly maintained locks which can be picked or broken. So I don't know about you, Rob, but it's something that as a family we've started to look at now, that layered approach.
Well, the other thing as well is on the locks part is door jammer was invented from a travel point of view. People don't know about the security in terms of hotels or wherever they are, or Airbnbs, about who has access to locks, or if it's a digital lock, who has access to it. I mean, I actually personally had an experience when I was traveling, when I did use door jammer, when someone had the key to the room that I was staying in. It was fine in the end, but it just showed me the place I was in. I was actually in Kenya, and someone had a key to the room that me and my wife were in when we were traveling, and we had a door jammer on the door. Tried the door didn't move because they were trying the lock, and thankfully we kind of had a conversation with the people, and it wasn't, they just had a key to the room, so it wasn't a bad deal. But it just showed you it was a massive lesson really for us. So it not just your home as well, it could be anywhere where that physical aspect could be compromised.
Yeah, I think, when you go overseas and you go to a hotel with a good name, you don't expect potential criminals to actually be employed by the hotel itself to try and break in. But
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
say, as you move further and further abroad to go on holiday overseas, I think people will just look for that opportunity. So we talked a little bit about layered security access, and a layered security approach is really locks, alarms, and physical barriers. I suppose that layer gives us that aspect of that if the criminal or the aggressor attacks one layer and gets past, he's got another that confronts him.
yeah,
And that's really effective. And it's interesting you talked about being overseas. But the layered security approach, it's essential protecting homes businesses because it does combine multiple defenses regardless of where you are. Okay. It makes sure that, if you build a cohesive system, it reduces the risk of intrusion. And you found that by having door jammer.
yeah,
I think what people can do is just really make sure that your locks are strong. They are the first line of defense.
yeah,
Trying to attack a lock takes a long, long time, whether you're trying to pick it or force it. But what you're doing is buying yourself time and making it harder for the criminal to get in. And if the locks are bypassed, you then need to make sure you've got a good alarm. A good alarm, something which makes a lot of noise. I mean, you can actually buy padlocks now with alarms. I
yeah.
mean, that's a great idea. I mean, I've got a padlock now that if you try and pick or move, it will send out a 20, 30 decibel screech.
Yeah.
So that's another layer of alarm that you're building in. But we're not just talking about alarms and locks here. We're talking about physical barriers such as fences, gates, reinforced doors, any type of obstacle that you can put in the way of a criminal to make them harder to get in. So I don't think one's good enough. I don't think you just need window and door jammer. There's so many other things you could use, Rob, to make life difficult.
Question for you on that. I presume then most break and entry like this is opportunistic. So if you have more layers like this, then if it is opportunistic, then they're more likely they walk away because they've tried one, something else is in their way. This is unsafe. They need to get out because is that correct? Would that be the?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think if you're either abroad or at home, if you stay in a town, I think it can be a double-edged weapon. People can hide amongst other people, make their escape easier. I suppose a downside for the criminal is that properties are usually overlooked by other people. If you're in the country, again, they've got to come out here, which it's not a problem now for them. You're slightly more isolated. So yeah, you're right, mate. I think the days of just one obstacle is gone. You need to have multiple. I mean, it might actually amaze you just now that the Office of National Statistics in 2023 last year, they produced a report that showed that nearly 70% of burglaries were committed just by a single offender. Some criminal gangs, obviously, they operate in teams, some operate in pairs, but most of these burglaries were down to one person. ONS also said that doors and windows are the most common entry points. Over 55% of break-ins occurred by forcing entry through an external door, while windows were used 20% of the time, often because they were left unlocked. Quite a few burglaries around here have happened because windows and doors were left open because it's a community where people feel quite relaxed in. We don't
Yeah.
expect people to come along. I mean, do you live in the town, Rob? Do you live in
I
a
don't.
city?
I don't. I live in the country, and so you do feel slightly vulnerable. But it's interesting you're talking about lighting earlier. So that's one of the first things I thought about in, a young family. I travel, being able to floodlight the and have motion and as well, but as also then the physical security for it. Because, well, I suppose wherever you are, town or country, it's a different fear. Whatever, the isolation in the country, you can think sometimes
Yeah.
there aren't many people who can see something happening here if it does.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the last stat here really is that half of UK burglaries, of 47%, they were just impulsively conducted. Burglars saw an easy opportunity, saw an open door, a window, and they went for it. But also, it's quite interesting that more than half of the burglaries happened without significant property damage because
Mm.
access was gained through an unlocked point of entry, emphasizing the need for consistent security measures, even when you're at home. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than being a young mother with a family at home on their own, if the husband's away, or they're left, in a hotel room potentially. The husband's just popped out, then it's not good. It's not good
No,
at all.
no.
Okay, so I mean, a few common techniques intruders are using. This is really where door jammer, window jammer comes into its own. So there are various techniques for people to get entry into homes or businesses or hotels. And it usually revolves around exploiting weaknesses in locks, doors, and windows. So common methods we've all heard is lock picking, okay, where the lock's manipulated, okay, with no brute force. But this is quite a skill set, and it does take a long time to learn. But if they can't do that, then usually they'll just break down a door or smash a window. Lock bumping, okay, that's a method that uses specially crafted keys. That's a popular tactic, very much abroad, lock bumping, used mostly in hotels. Other techniques can be slip tools. If you haven't heard of a slip tool before, it's very similar to a credit card. And what it does, it helps manipulate the latch, forcing the latch to recess and the door to lift open. And then again, we're down to other tactics like social engineering, impersonating service workers to gain access. That's why, you don't see many properties these doors with chains on. Having a chain is another layered approach to security. But as we've seen more recently in towns and cities, you've got burglars now that are resorting to letterbox phishing. How many people have got, keys in the backs of doors where people can actually get in with a tool and extract them and then open the door? So you've got to be aware of these things, but if you're not aware of them, then you can't protect against them. So let's talk a little bit about how a simple non-invasive tool like a door and window jammer can be effective. So what is a door jammer, Rob?
It's made out of carbon steel. It's a tiny little device that slips underneath the door, and then it has a foot on it that winds up to engage the door. The physics of it are, but when the little foot goes underneath the door, winds up, and you wind up the leg, it pushes the door up. So it engages the door and takes the weight of the door. So the way the physics of it are is that when someone tries to break in and push that door down, it disperses the pressure upwards. So it stops entry. So pushing away, forcing it into the frame. So it's kind of just employing physics, really. I mean, it's effectively like if you think of a door wedge, it's a similar concept, but it's much, much stronger, and it pushes the force back that's engaged on it. So if a door lock can be broken, you obviously this door jammer is on the other side, is not visible. So someone could pick a lock or break that lock, but you've still got a system that's just as strong pushing against the door that stops someone pushing that door open.
Perfect. So those of us listening today that haven't got a master's in physics, a door jammer is basically...
Apologies for that, yeah.
It's okay. A door jammer can prevent doors from being kicked in by reinforcing the door's resistance to force. Okay, and this is really useful in sort of older or weaker frames. Okay, so that's the door jammer. There's actually window jammers as well. And very, very similar to the door jammers. Some of these window jammers stop doors from being opened, even if the locks are picked or bypassed. They're affordable and easy to install. They create a significant deterrent to intruders who rely on quick, quiet methods of entry. So we've got two products there. So let's think about how can we secure our home or office? Security cameras, smart locks, reinforcing weak entry points, but you won't know this until you do a proper security audit, which is always good to do, because if you do that, you'll get a bit of an idea of where your vulnerable points are, and then you can combat those. But we've got to get into that personal mindset of, You know, you have a morning routine, you have a nighttime routine where you go to bed and just walk around the house and you check to make sure it's safe, that everything's shut, everything's locked, and go to bed with a good peace of mind. I think taking a proactive step to enhance the safety of your home and business is a powerful commitment to protecting what matters most. And for everyone listening today, that's you, your family, and your employees. You know, every small action, whether it's installing security systems, reinforcing doors, or educating yourself and others about safety measures, contributes to creating a secure environment. I think we all need to remember that, you know, safety is not just about reacting to threats. It's about actually empowering yourself and others to take control. And again, that will give you a peace of mind. You know, by prioritizing your security, you're not only safeguarding your space, but you're also fostering a sense of community and resilience. Remember, every effort counts, and together, you know, we can build a safer world for ourselves and those we care about. Rob, thanks so much for your time today. Any closing comments?
No, it's been great. Thank you very much, Stu. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Rob. And hopefully for those listening today, you found this informative, and you can always get in touch with us for any other questions about physical security at www.inveroy.com. Thanks so much, and goodbye.